Okay, good morning, everyone. Welcome to PS4 class, e-class. Shall we start, right? I guess the rest of the students, they might be getting ready and they might join us later. So, as I was saying, you started Unit 12 with teacher Pedro last Thursday. And what we're going to do today is we're going to review some vocabulary. We're also going to do activities with the vocabularies. We're going to have 2 quizzes in where you can check vocabulary and also grammar. Okay, and if you had any questions, please write your questions in the chat box and teacher Pedro will help you answer the questions, okay? So make sure to bring pencil, pen, paper, your book if you have your book, and a glass of water, okay? And at the beginning, what we did is we started talking about a little bit about our weather because our weather had been crazy this week. And it was so funny that we had the Veranillo San Juan, we call them like that, because we're gonna have San Juan soon. And the first thing that we have in mind when it's after the warm days, we have cold day, and then we want to, I don't know, have cocido or chipa or caburé or something like that. Okay, so make yourself comfortable and we're going to start the class. Welcome everyone. Thanks for being here. Okay, so last class we started with teacher Pedro learning some vocabulary. And these are some housing options. What and where was your first home? Can you write your answers? Look at the pictures and write your answer. What and where was your first home? Was it in a townhouse? Was it in a farmhouse? Do you remember any of these? Yes, don't worry, Victor. That's fine. Good morning. We understand, and sometimes we might have internet connections. That's why the classes are being recorded, so you can watch it later if you miss some of the things. And that's why it's important to go, if you missed Thursday's classes, you can watch the classes in the platform. Okay, what and where was your first home? Was it in a mansion? Was it in a farmhouse? My mom, for example, used to live in a farmhouse in the countryside. And then she moved to the city. She said that living in the farm or in the countryside at that time was not fun at all because they didn't have electricity. Okay, can you name them? So this, for example, is a townhouse. How about number 2? Victor said yes. Number 4 is cabin. Yes, is a place or is a house that is made of woods. Would you like to live in a cabin? Like in the woods? For me, that's like kind of scary. What if the bombero comes at night? Or, I don't know, a bear. Well, we don't have bears in Paraguay, but any other kinds of animals. I'm not really afraid of the animals, but I'm afraid of the insects. For example, spiders or snakes. The last time, like 5 months ago, we went to a place in where they have a cabin, and the funny thing is, it started to rain, and all of a sudden, my little daughter says, "Snake, snake, snake," and we're like, "What?" She saw a snake. And my husband didn't believe that. He was like, "No, that's not a snake." And then he's under the trash. He's under the trash. So we looked under the trash can, and yes, there was a snake under. So I was like, after that, everybody was inside the cabin. Nobody wanted to go out anymore. Okay, yes, 5 mansion. This is studio apartment. Number 3 is a farmhouse. Very good, Anna. Cabin. Number 5 is a mansion. Have you ever been in a mansion? And number 6 is dorm. Yes, is a dormitory. Dormitory is a place that you will find in the university. When I was in the States, I had the opportunity to go with a friend. She was moving into a dorm because she was going to college. And it looks pretty much like the picture. Yeah, so they share rooms. Sometimes there are 2 or 3 in one room, and they are in the campus, so they are near the classrooms, let's say. Very good, guys. So what we're doing is we are reviewing a little bit the vocabulary that you have with teacher Pedro last class. And I also wanted to go over the meaning of them, right? Townhouse is a tall, narrow, traditional row house, and generally having 3 or more floors. As you can see in the picture, you have 3 floors, and it's like very, very narrow, okay? And it's small, and you have like the same type of house near each other, okay, next to each other actually. And a farmhouse, yes, is a house in where farmers live, and it's a house attached to a farm, especially the main house in which the farmer lives. The farm is actually the place in where you grow crops, in where you grow mandioca. That was the first thing that came to my mind. But you grow vegetables and other things. And I also wanted to mention barn because we have this vocabulary in the book, and sometimes we get confused. What are the differences between farmhouse and barn? Sometimes you have the farmhouse, but you don't have the barn. The barn is a large farm building used for storing grain, hay, or straw, or for housing livestock. Barn will be the granero, okay? And this is, you can actually see in the movies. The last movie that I saw that they had a barn was in Superman. You know, Superman lived in a farmhouse and they have a barn. And inside the barn, there was his spaceship. Yeah. Okay. So we have townhouse, studio apartment, farmhouse, cabin, mansion, and dormitory. So have you ever been into a mansion? I don't know if we have mansions in Paraguay. We probably do, but I don't know where. Yes, we do. Okay. Probably in Ciudad del Este, in Asunción, in some specific places, right? But here in Oviedo, we don't really have mansions. Okay. I have never been into a mansion, by the way. Okay. Do you know anyone who live in these places? The first picture is a farmhouse. The second picture, it could be a townhouse. And the third picture, dormitory or a dorm. That's how my daughter's room looks like, pretty much. Do you have or do you know anyone who lives in these places? I have a cousin who lives on a ranch. Really, my grandparents used to live on a ranch. Now they live in a small village. Can you write your comments? Ooh, today we are like very quiet. Okay, so we are going to form breakout rooms in where you have to speak to your classmates. And what I want you to do is to ask each other questions. Okay? Where do you live? Where do you used to live? Do you live in a townhouse? Are you from a small town? Do you used to live in a big city? Do you live downtown? Do you grow up in a farmhouse? Something that I want to mention about townhouse also, there are people that have their houses in the city, and they have their house in another house in a townhouse. So like casa de campo, right? So we're going to form breakout rooms, and what we're going to do is ask each other questions, okay? Where do you live? Where do you used to live? Do you live in a townhouse? Are you from a small town? Do you used to live in a big city? Do you live downtown? Do you grow up in a farmhouse? And if you want to add more questions, you can add more questions. For example, in the case of where do you used to live, and you're still living in the same place, you can say, I'm still living in the same place, but I will like to live, for example. You can actually say the places in where would you like to live. Are you ready, guys? Do you take pictures? Did you take a picture of the screen? And now we're going to form breakout rooms. There are 16 participants, so I'm going to put you in 6 rooms. And I'm going to give you 3 minutes, okay? And please remember to click join when you see that on your screen. Please join your groups and ask each other questions. See you later. Wow, this is so cool. Thank you for sharing your answers. The idea of the breakout rooms is to practice your English. Since we're not in a presential, or we're not in a classroom, we're in a virtual classroom. It's important to practice, and you don't have to be worried about making mistakes because you have to lose the shyness. Okay, that is the key to learn English, and you are doing great. Can you imagine you are in the last unit, and then after PS4 you're gonna be an I1, intermediate 1. Okay, are you all back? Very good. Would you like to share some of your answers? Who used to live in a farmhouse or grew up in a farmhouse? Nobody? How about in a townhouse? or maybe in a mansion. Emilio, okay. You used to live in a townhouse? And now, where do you live? Oh, you grew up in a townhouse. Okay, you're still living in the same place. Very good. Okay, thanks for sharing. Let's continue then. So we were sharing the places that we used to live or where we're living right now. The places like farmhouse. We used to live in a townhouse, small city, etc. Big city, right? And what we're going to do now is we are going to do a little vocabulary quiz based on the vocabulary that you just review. Okay? So teacher Pedro will copy the link in the chat box. You can go to your browser and do the quiz. Okay? I will give you a couple of minutes. Okay? 3 minutes, 5. Take your time. There you have the link. And some of the things that I want to tell you is that what we do with teacher Pedro is when you do the quizzes, vocabulary and grammar, what he does is then later he checks your answers, and if there are some mistakes in the answers, he goes over the vocabulary and the grammar in the next class to clarify any mistakes, any questions that you have, okay? So there you have the link. And please write your, when you are done, you can give me thumbs up or say I'm done. Write the answers in the chat box. Very good. Thank you. Abhishek is done. Arami, Victoria, Anna, Jonathan. Very good. If you cannot take the quiz now because it's kind of difficult to get out of the meeting and go to your browsers, it's fine. What you could do is copy the link and you can do it later. But the idea is like you can practice in the class, and if you have any questions, you can ask the questions. I remember one of the questions last time was about in Unit 11, and where might, sometimes it gets confused when to use might, may, and depending of the information that you have. And so that's why the quizzes that we are using are similar to the quizzes that you have in the platform, and also it's the same structure for the test. And what we do in the classes is we give you one quiz for vocabulary and another quiz for grammar separate. We separate them. And when you have the test, you will have them all together. Victor is also finished, Marley too. Okay, very good. Okay, thank you. So since you're all finished, let's take a look of these two pictures. Can you write at your answers, what is the meaning of urban life and what is the meaning of suburban life? Can you write your answers? What do you think is the urban life? Based on the picture. Urban life is in the city and suburban life will be in the suburbs. It will be far from downtown, let's say. It's more like the countryside. And here are some vocabulary for you to read. I see the chat moving. I don't know why, for some reason, when I give and I wanted to read the chat box, it doesn't work. So are there questions or?
Victoria is saying that one is in the city and the other is in the country, and Karen is saying on the right is the suburbs, so on the left might be urban life.
Yes. Okay, thank you. Very good. And yes, and it's important to know I wanted to give you this vocabulary before we go to the next activity, and finger crossed, I hope it works. And the urban life, yes, is in the city and is most of the time downtown, so it's in the center. And suburban life, as you were saying, is in the countryside of the suburbs. And sites, when we listen to people say sites, so in this case, both sites, so the city and the suburbs, or downtown, the suburbs, those are sites. Rush hour, when there is too much traffic, and rush when you are in a rush. For example, when you live in the city, you have to rush, get up very early to take a bus, to go to your to take the bus and get on time to your job. Come across when you are, if you lived or most of your life in the countryside, and then you go to the city, there might be some different behaviors. For example, what I can say in this case as an example, in the countryside or in the suburb, it's more common to see people saying adios, hola, ¿qué tal? Hi, neighbor, how are you? And we all know each other. And when you go to the country, to the urban life or to the city, it's different. There are different people. You don't know. You might not be in the street and see your friend. I mean, it's not common to say hi to everybody or smile to everybody or adios, adios, right? And so come across is the way you behave in a city and in a countryside. So there might be different behaviors, and that's why in this case I wanted to mention come across, the way people behave in the city and how they behave in the countryside. Maintain is talking about the maintenance of the city. They clean the city, I mean the streets, I can't remember the vocabulary. The maintenance of the city, the things that you have around when you are walking in the city. Outfit is the thing that you wear when you go out. And commute, this is a very important vocabulary. When you live in the city or in a countryside, what you do is you commute. When you travel to go from your house every day to your job, that is commute. You commute, you can take the train, you can take the bus, You can take taxis, and you travel to go to your job. And this is especially happen in places, for example, when you have your job in the city. So it's a person who travels from some distance to work, and is most of the times very regularly, every day. Okay. Okay. And what we're going to do right now is we're going to watch a video. And hold on 1 second. I'm going to go to my browser so I can share my screen with you and do this activity. And it's based on the vocabulary that you just learned. Remember, urban life, suburban life, commute, maintain. What was another word? Do you remember? Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a video. Okay. And while you're watching the video, you're going to see some, it's like a quiz, okay? Can you see my screen? Yes? I cannot read it.
Yes, we can see it, teacher.
Okay, very good. So I'm going to play the video, and can you see the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10? So they're going to be talking, because this is an interview about urban life versus suburban life, and you have to listen to the conversation, to the interview, and remember the words, okay? And you have to write your answers in the chat box.
Do you live right in the city, or are you in a suburb?
I used to live in the suburbs with my parents till I was 17 years old, and then as I thought I have to grow up, I moved into the city and I lived in the center. Yeah.
So which do you prefer?
That's difficult because both sides have their advantages.
Okay, what's the meaning of site? To exist or be built in a particular place, a place on the internet, to build something in a particular place, or a place where something is. A, B, C, or D? Is a place where something is. That is site. Okay, let's continue.
That's difficult because both sides have their advantages. In the city, you are around your friends, and it's much easier to go out and to meet people, and you're at home in 10 minutes because you can walk.
Okay, fill the gap. In the city, your friends. Do you remember the word? You can also unmute your microphone if you want to say the word. Around. In the city, you're around your friends.
And if you live in the suburbs, it's more quiet, and yeah, you're more in the countryside, more in the nature with your family. So it's like, I wouldn't say one is better than the other one. It has both sides is very good. So I like both.
I think most people in the city are there because of work a lot of the time, so a lot of people are rushing and they've got deadlines and appointments to meet, so.
Okay. A word which means to cost you or go to or do something very quickly. You remember when you're in a hurry? Rush.
To meet, so they can come across as a bit more rude than perhaps people in the suburbs who have less pressures on them, it seems to me.
Okay, do you remember what was the meaning of come across? To find something or someone by chance, come to the city, come to the country, or behave.
But I think once you get talking to people in the city, when they've got time, they're just as nice as anyone else.
Tell me where you live.
I live in the city. Where I live is kind of quiet, but it depends on the time of the day, and sometimes there is like a little restaurant in the area, and people tend to go there, so sometimes you hear when people are coming out when it's really late, but it's not noisy all the time. It's okay. It's a medium kind of sound there. There's lots of children there, families, a lot of families, different cultures, hardworking people. It's a very nice community.
Okay. Fill in the gap. It's very nice. Do you remember the word? Come. Community.
Community. It's very clean, which is kind of different from the city because the city is kind of messy, but they maintain it and they keep it very nice. So lots of stores, shopping, a little family theater area where kids can go.
That was that I didn't remember. It means to keep a road, machine, building in good condition. Maintain.
Kids can go watch shows with their family. So it's a very nice area. I enjoy living in the city because it's quick access to like food, or you don't have to travel.
I enjoy living in the city because I get quick to like food. Do you remember the word? Access. So I get quick access to like food.
Have to travel in a car or go down an hour or two to the mall. I mean, you could just walk up to any store and get an outfit and you're gone. Like it doesn't take a lot of work to go somewhere.
You can just walk up to any store and get on something that you wear to go out. Okay.
Somewhere.
I live in the city, and I really enjoy living in the city because it's very busy and there's always something to do. It gets a bit too busy sometimes, and so it's nice to take vacations. But I like living in the city because there's always bars to go to, there's restaurants, there's plenty to do. The commute to work is very short. It only takes.
I know that they might be speaking very fast for you, so you might not understand all of the words that they are saying. In this case, the to work is very short. Remember the word that means to travel from one place to other very regularly? Commute.
It only takes me about 20 minutes to get to work by public transportation, and yeah, I really like it because there's lots of people with similar interests and very interesting people to speak to all the time.
Okay. So this is an activity that you can also do. If there are resources in where you can go access to internet, and you start writing your, and watch the video. While you're watching, you write your answer. And in this case, you have to pay a lot of attention. You have to watch, listen, and write. So you are practicing a lot. Okay, so now what we're going to do is continue with the class. I hope you enjoy the video.
Teacher,
Okay.
we are hearing the music from the
Still?
webpage. Oh, yeah.
I'm sorry. There you go. Can you see my screen?
Yes. Now we can.
Okay. What things would you do if you live in a beautiful townhouse, in a quiet village, in a studio apartment, in a high-rise downtown, in a large mansion in the country far from nearest neighbors? What things would you do? If you live in a townhouse, in a quiet village, can you write your answers in the chat box? I will give you some help. If I live in a townhouse, I will be in peace. If I live in a townhouse, I might have nice neighbors. How about in a studio apartment in a high-rise downtown? If I live in an apartment, I won't have a lot of space. If I live in an apartment, I might have a pet. And what about in a large mansion? If I live in a mansion, I will have many rooms to clean. If I live in a mansion, I might have many people working for me. You will need a lot of people working there. So you might have many rooms, many bathrooms, pool, garden. Okay, I see the chat blinking, but I don't know what you're writing.
Victoria
so-
says, if I live in a townhouse, I will like to have a garden.
Oh yeah, definitely. Definitely. Thank you. Thank you for sharing, girls. Guys. Okay, so based on the grammar, what we have in the previous slide, if I live in a townhouse, I will be in peace. So these are statements and questions with the if clauses and modals. We use the if clauses for possible events in the future when one event depends on another. The if clause can come before or after the main clause. When the if clause comes first, we use a comma after it. We use the simple present in the if clause. We use will, may, or might in plus the base form of a verb in the main clause. We can use affirmative or negative verbs in one clause or in both clauses. And the structure for this is if plus simple present, comma, modal plus the base form. Language expansion. Conditions with if, not, and unless. If plus not is used to express a negative condition. If you don't buy a house, you'll have to rent an apartment. Unless is used to express a negative condition. So if you don't buy a house, you'll have to rent an apartment. Unless you buy a house, you'll have to rent an apartment. Let's go back to the previous slide. Here we have an example. If your sentence starts with a if, you need a comma to go to the next sentence in where you will have your main clause. The structure is if plus simple present, comma, then you have the modal. Which ones are the modals that we're going to use or we can use here? They are will, may, or might. Then your verb should be in the base form, in the main clause. And we can use affirmative, negative verbs in one clause or in both clauses. And what we learn in the next slide is when you are using conditions and you want to express a negative condition, you can use if plus not, or you could use unless. Are there any questions? No?
There aren't any in the chat.
Okay. Can we try to rewrite the sentences using unless? If you don't live near the mall, you won't be near the best stores. How would you write it with unless? Unless you live near the mall. In this case, we don't use a negative form. We just use unless you, so we erase don't and we erase if. And we just use unless you live near the mall, comma, the main clause stays the same. You won't be near the best stores. If he doesn't go to Tokyo, he'll go to Kyoto. We erase if and doesn't, and we use unless, subject, he goes, base form of our verb, to Tokyo, sorry, comma, main plus, he'll go to Kyoto. Number 3, if we don't have to work on Friday, we'll visit you. Again, we erase if and don't, and we use unless we have to work on Friday, we'll visit you. If you don't buy a house on the coast, you won't have a great view. We erase if and don't, and we use unless you buy a house on the coast, you won't have a great view. Can we do a grammar, please? I don't know if we still have time though. We might have time. Teacher Pedro will send the link on the chat box. Are there any questions, guys? Please write your questions. If you don't have any questions, you can go to your browser and do the quiz.
Victoria is asking, why is unless we work? I think it was from the previous example.
Unless, yeah, number 3.
Number 3.
Unless we have to work on Friday.
She's asking that question. Why is it unless we work?
Unless we work. Okay, here, what we only do, unless it expresses a negative opinion. A negative expression, sorry. And if plus not, it also expresses a negative opinion. A negative expression, sorry. So what we're doing is we use the same sentence, but instead of using if and don't, we replace that with unless. And here, your verb will be have to work. This is an infinitive. Unless we have to work on Friday, we'll visit you. I don't know if I clarified your question.
Victoria says yes.
Okay.
And Jonathan just finished the quiz.
Wow, Jonathan is like Speedy Gonzalez. He's really fast. So remember, if you missed last Thursday class, you can go to the platform and watch the video again to do a little review of the vocabulary, the writing, the reading activity. And also it will help you with the quizzes that you have to do, you have to finish in the platform. Are you guys finished?
There are 8 or 9 responses, teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, 9. Karen, Emilio, Arami, Marley, and yeah, they finished, and also Anna.
Okay. So remember, Teacher Pedro will go over the responses if there were some mistakes. He will go over the grammar and vocabulary next class again to clarify any other things or questions that you might have. Finish, very good. Okay. And we don't have more time. So I'm going to share my last, just to wrap up and clarify the grammar structure. So what we learned is the structure of if. So the if clause. In this case, something that I want to mention is that because it's divided with commas, we can say that we have two sentences joining together. The if clause, what it does is introduces a condition. And after the comma, what you have is the result of that condition. And the if, in this case, if the structure is if plus simple present, and if you start with the if clause, you need to have a comma. Then you have the main clause in where you need modal, the modal, plus the base form. When do we use the if clauses? For possible events in the future when one event depends on another event. The if clause can come before or after the main clause. When the if clause comes after the main clause, you don't need a comma. When the if clause comes first, we use a comma after it. We use the simple present in the if clause, and we use will, may, or might plus the base form of a verb in the main clause. We use if plus not or unless to express a negative condition. I saw the chat blinking. It was because you finished your quiz or because there were any questions? Okay, I guess no questions.
On the chat, Emilia is asking when is it gonna be our test this month? Like when is the test? So
It was the 25th or the 26th?
25th. Yeah,
Yes.
25th. I'm gonna write it on the chat.
Okay. So this is important information that I want to share with you. If you have any questions about anything that has to do with the administrative things, you can write to the numbers that you have there, WhatsApp numbers. And there you have the branches: Central, Ciudad del Este, Villamorra, Encarnación, Cacupé, San Lorenzo, and Coronel Oviedo. Also, there are some quizzes that you need to do in the platform. You have to log in, go to the dashboard, and go to the course that you're taking and to the units. You have to remember, you have to finish all the quizzes. And these are the extra resources that I wanted to share with you. One of them is U-English, and is to help you with the pronunciation. And you can actually write the word here or the sentence, and it will actually pronounce, or you will hear a voice in where it says the pronunciation, so you can practice, okay? And another resource is Grammarly.com, that is to help you with the spelling mistakes or grammar corrections. If you don't know how to write or spell a word, you can write, for example, I wrote before maintenance, for example, I didn't write the I. So in those cases, Grammarly help you correct the mistakes, the spelling mistakes. So these two resources are very helpful while we are learning English. In this case, while you are at home and you don't have your teacher next to you, these are extra resources that can help you with the pronunciation and grammar. And so I guess that's all for today, students. Thank you very much for being here. And please take advantage of the resources that we share with you. And you will have the final exam the 25th, June 25th. You're still going to have one classes with teacher Pedro, and with me one more class in where we're going to do a review of the units, the 3 last units, and to remember some of the previous grammar or vocabulary. And no, Emilio, in this case, with the online courses, we don't really have a midterm. We have finals. That's why you have to take the quizzes for each unit. And that would be a way in where you will have your grade at the end of the course. Thank you very much, guys. Remember, next class with teacher Pedro. And if you have any questions, you can write your questions down and teacher Pedro will clarify next week. And see you next Saturday. But with teacher Pedro, see you next Thursday, right? Have a great weekend. Enjoy. Bye-bye. Thank you.
Goodbye, students. Goodbye, teacher.
Bye.
Bye-bye.